Sukai took time off work to take Tan Songyun to the airport. Tan Songyun looked embarrassed. Why would one of the busiest actors in the industry, a man whose every hour is meticulously scheduled, whose public appearances are counted and scrutinized down to the minute, choose to step away from his obligations just to accompany someone to an airport? Why, when the cameras and the world were not watching, did Sukai prioritize a simple, intimate moment with Tan Songyun over contracts, meetings, and deadlines? And why did Tan Songyun, usually composed and graceful under every circumstance, betray a flicker of visible embarrassment, a blush that refused to be hidden even under her carefully chosen outfit and subtle makeup? These questions, deceptively simple on the surface, held layers of human complexity, emotional depth, and cinematic tension that would make anyone pause and ask themselves what it truly means to care for someone in a world driven by schedules, fame, and relentless public attention. Hold on tight, C-Drama family. The world of your favorite celebrities is unfolding before your eyes, and every moment is more breathtaking than the last. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. It was a quiet morning when the story began, one of those days where the sky is pale, the sunlight diffuse, and the air carries a soft chill that makes every breath visible, fleeting, and fragile. Sukai's phone rang earlier than usual, not with a call from his manager, not with a reminder from a studio assistant, but a simple message from Tan Songyun herself. The kind of message that doesn't demand an immediate response, yet carries enough weight that no ordinary response would suffice. She had a flight to catch, and while the public would assume she would take a car service, a studio driver, or simply appear at the airport alone as she often did, something in Sukai's mind, an internal alarm of instinctive concern, told him that this was different. This time, he would be there. Not for appearances, not for fans, not for the cameras or the headlines, but for her. By 8 in the morning, the city was already alive with its usual pulse, cars honking in rhythm, vendors opening their stalls, the faint hum of buses moving across bridges, and the occasional whistle of a passing train. Sukai had managed to clear his schedule, a rare feat for someone whose life was mapped hour by hour, minute by minute, by contracts and commitments. There were emails he would answer later, calls he would return later, and meetings he would postpone, all for the singular, unremarkable act of accompanying her to the airport. And yet, for anyone observing, the scene was anything but ordinary. There was a gravity in his movements, a deliberateness in every step he took, that spoke of intention beyond routine. Every crease in his jacket, every careful adjustment of his hair, every glance toward the clock and the car keys held a tension that made the ordinary act of going to the airport feel like a carefully orchestrated sequence in a movie, a quiet drama unfolding under the indifferent light of dawn. Tan Songyun, meanwhile, was aware of every detail. She had arrived at her apartment earlier, dressed in a soft sweater and trousers that were both comfortable and elegant, perfect for travel yet understated enough to avoid attracting attention. Her hair fell naturally around her shoulders, and her face carried a gentle blush, subtle but undeniable, that betrayed her awareness of his presence. She was trying, in the way only someone well-versed in public composure can, to maintain her poise, to walk calmly, to greet him with a casual smile, yet every movement was tinged with the quiet embarrassment of being accompanied by someone she knew cared more than anyone should at that hour, someone whose devotion, though unspoken, was palpable in the small gestures that filled the space between them. The drive to the airport was measured, deliberate, yet filled with a tension that could be felt in the slightest shift of the steering wheel, the small glance exchanged in the rearview mirror, the subtle adjustments to the radio that kept the silence from becoming oppressive. Sukai spoke rarely, his sentences deliberate and concise, yet his attention never wavered from her. Every slight sign of discomfort, every fleeting expression of anxiety or embarrassment, was noted with precision. He adjusted the air conditioning just so, offered a gentle word when the traffic slowed, and reached subtly for her hand once, a quiet reassurance that was felt rather than acknowledged. Tan Songyun, for her part, tried to meet his attentiveness with casual conversation, small jokes, and polite deflection, yet the blush on her cheeks deepened, betraying the warmth she felt under the intensity of his gaze and the undeniable care in every motion. As they approached the airport, the building loomed large against the morning sky, glass facades reflecting the pale sunlight, the crowds beginning to stir, travelers moving with purpose, unaware of the quiet, intimate drama unfolding just inside the arriving car. Sukai parked with deliberate care, every motion precise yet understated, as though performing a private ritual that held deep meaning for both of them. Tan Songyun stepped out first, hesitating slightly on the curb, adjusting her bag, smoothing her hair, her gaze flickering briefly toward him as though seeking permission, reassurance, or simply the silent affirmation of his presence. Sukai followed, closing the door softly, moving to her side with the instinctive precision of someone who has long since internalized the language of care, protection, and attention, someone for whom the simple act of walking beside another human being has become a declaration of devotion. Inside the terminal, the bustle of travelers seemed to fade around them, as if the world had shifted its focus to this quiet, deliberate act. He carried her bags briefly, offered a guiding hand, adjusted her scarf, and matched her pace precisely, anticipating every movement, every need, every tiny detail that would allow her to feel safe, comfortable, and cared for. She laughed quietly at one point, a sound that was more nervous than humorous, a laugh that betrayed her embarrassment at being the recipient of such meticulous attention, a laugh that was soft enough to escape the notice of the crowd but carried enough weight to make his heart tighten. She tried to protest gently, to insist she could manage on her own, but the warmth and intensity in his eyes left no room for argument, leaving only the quiet acknowledgement of care and the unspoken understanding that, for Sukai, this was not a gesture, not an obligation, but a moment of genuine devotion that required nothing more than his presence and his attention. Finally, at the security checkpoint, the moment of departure approached. The line of travelers seemed endless, their voices and movements a blur against the focused intensity of the pair. Tan Songyun adjusted her mask nervously, glanced toward Sukai, and for a brief second, her usual composure faltered, the embarrassment she had carried subtly through the morning now fully apparent. She looked away quickly, trying to mask the warmth rising in her cheeks, but Sukai's steady, reassuring presence did not waver. He placed a hand gently on her elbow, guiding her forward with the quiet authority of someone who knows exactly what must be done, someone for whom the act of accompanying her has become both a promise and a protective ritual. The subtle tension between them, the quiet intimacy, and the unspoken feelings filled every small gesture, every breath, every glance, transforming an otherwise mundane airport visit into a cinematic moment of emotional depth, human connection, and unguarded vulnerability. As she finally stepped through the gates, ready to board, Sukai lingered for a fraction longer, just long enough to make sure she was safe, comfortable, and prepared for the journey ahead. His gaze met hers briefly, a silent conversation passing in the span of a heartbeat, gratitude, care, subtle embarrassment, and an unspoken promise to always be there, even in moments the world will never see. She waved softly, the blush still present, and turned toward the boarding gate, carrying with her not just the belongings she packed, but the weight of a shared intimacy, a private ritual of attention and devotion, and the knowledge that some gestures, though quiet and unseen by the world, carry more meaning than the loudest declarations ever could. Sukai watched until she disappeared from sight, and only then did he exhale, the tension of the morning dissipating slowly, leaving behind the quiet, lingering proof of a bond that transcends schedules, fame, and expectation, a bond marked not by spectacle but by the deliberate, tender actions of care, presence, and unwavering attention. As the sliding glass doors of the airport closed behind Tan Songyun, Sukai stood for a long moment, the soft hum of the terminal around him fading into a blur, as though the world had temporarily shrunk to the space between her figure and his own heartbeat. The bustling travelers, the luggage carts rattling along polished floors, the low murmur of announcements over the intercom, all of it seemed distant, almost irrelevant. His hands, which had only moments ago been steady, guiding, protective, now rested loosely at his sides, betraying the tension that had held him upright for the entire morning. For someone so disciplined, so meticulously in control of every facet of his public life, these moments alone, moments after leaving her side, were devastatingly raw. He allowed himself to inhale slowly, the air tasting faintly of coffee and jet fuel and the faint antiseptic scent that clung to airports, and for the first time that morning, he permitted the weight of the worry, the subtle fear, and the emotional intensity to fully settle over him. The drive back to the city was quiet, almost painfully so. Sukai did not reach for his phone, did not scroll through messages, did not check the schedule he had so carefully cleared that morning. The engine's hum was the only sound, the rhythmic motion of the tires over the pavement providing a steadying backdrop to the storm of thoughts that ran unchecked in his mind. He replayed every subtle sign he had noticed throughout the morning, the slight tremor of her hand as she adjusted her bag, the faint blush that colored her cheeks, the nervous laughter that escaped when she caught him watching her too closely, and the moment at the security gate when she had glanced up, meeting his gaze with that fleeting look that said more than words ever could. Each memory was vivid, magnified in his mind, an intimate montage of gestures, expressions, and emotions that no camera could ever capture, no fan could ever understand, and no script could ever write.